I thought you were going to do the intro.
Me? Why would we deviate now? You've done them all so far.
Welcome to Finding Neutral. I'm Aaron.
I'm Travis.
No Nick.
No Nick.
On today's episode, we got Erich Schmidt with us. Now, I'm going to preface this a little bit by saying I know Erich Schmidt. I've known him for a little while. Little while. And he's one of the people that in life and in business and in motorcycling, I have a lot of respect for. So we're going to kind of get into this interview, and I might deviate from the list a little bit just because of our background. But let's do this. So I've already kind of introduced you. Normally we ask what's your name, but I don't think you have anything else. Oh, you do have something else to add. What's your Asphalt Junkies name?
Dark6.
Yeah.
So old.
So we interviewed Mike, Ohio YJ.
Oh, yeah.
We interviewed him last weekend, and in it, your name came up, and we were referring to you not only as Schmidt, but as Dark6.
It's funny who I meet, like at the end of the season last year up at Willow, man, it was crazy. It was like an old school, dude, it was so it was so nostalgic, and I was so enamored by all of these old OG Asphalt Junkies around. It was crazy, man.
It's something special when we all get together.
It is.
It always is.
It is. But half of them know me by name. It's usually like the crowd that kind of stuck around with us, right? Our little clique that we generated is, and now it's Schmidt or Erich or whatever. Every now and then, like, Monger will throw a dark at me or something. But, then you get the other half of the junkies, and they only still know me as Dark6 still. And it's like, I have a name, and I'm 45 years old now. So.
I don't know. There's something endearing about the old forum names. They don't exist anymore. No one uses that stuff anymore.
No, I'd love to push these boards, man, and find a way that we can get all these people. So what I find, why I don't get on this board all the time, is because life. And I forget about it, man.
Yeah.
I don't have a habit to go to it anymore. Have a habit to go to Facebook.
You do have you have to remember to go to a specific place, where Facebook is like the app on your phone, and it's just right there. Yeah. So I get it. The forums are antiquated. It just
still love them. Though.
It just is, but I love them.
It's a nostalgic thing for me.
There was talks of this on one of the podcasts, one of the big major player podcasts. They were talking about all that knowledge that's on all those forums from the early 2000s, because the servers are all going down because no one's paying for them anymore.
It's all gone.
All that knowledge is gone. And you're talking about encyclopedias full of knowledge out there. Think about how many times you've Google searched something and it's linked you to some forum somewhere, and the guy had the answer, and it's from 12 years ago.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was rebuilding my scooter, it's a 1987. There is no information online anywhere to go get. I have the service manual, the user manual, and I have people that have posted on forums that are 20 years old, 25-year-old boards. That's the only place to get any information. So 98% of the information I got was from forums that were old and 15-year-old posts, and I'm just reading through oh, this guy had the same problem I had. This is what he did. That's what I'm going to do.
Now it's archived in a lost read-only read-only file, and you're never going to see again.
It sucks because it's such a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's all gonna disappear one day.
Well, I mean, you can see that already. Comparatively, so I'm at the age where in my 20s and 30s, the BB boards were the thing.
Yeah, they're going strong back then.
That was it. There was not really a Facebook other than if you were in college, and it was kind
social medias weren't like they are
not
now.
like they are now. And it's when I would search for something or a problem back then, I could come across 4 or 5 forums. And nowadays, you don't come across any of them hardly. And in fact, if you go to the top of Google, I almost have to click the forum tab up at the top to list all the forums so I can start looking around.
Yep.
And it's still part of some of my diagnostic information, man.
It absolutely is.
I'm a diagnostician by trade, and I don't need too many people's help to fix much of anything anymore. But there's still that reading that I want and I'm hungry for, and it doesn't exist anymore.
There's always that one project out there that you're not necessarily the most experienced in. It's impossible to be experienced in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always that one thing that you're like, man, I've never done this before. And you can find some forum somewhere where some dude wrote up like a full, like a full how-to of exactly what you're looking for. Nowadays you got YouTube, but like I always feel like on YouTube you can't find the specific data, and even if you do, you're watching some 10-minute long video of this guy fumbling around, and you're
I'd
like,
rather read.
yeah, I'd much rather just read it.
It drives me nuts with news stations because you can't get the article anymore. You can only get the daggone video.
Video, I know
You're
it.
just like, I just want to read the article.
I don't want to sit here and read or listen to your video for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I just
After
wanna read
watching
it.
a 30-second ad in front of the news article.
And then 3 more in between it.
Yeah.
Ugh. So, Eric, how many bikes you got now?
Oh, man. I don't know. We've been on a bit of a downsizing spree here lately. So let's see. We've got the Hoosberg 570. We've got the Super Duke. We've got the Super Adventure. I've got a Yamaha R5 in 1970.
Still got that old guy?
Yeah. That one's actually getting ready to go to the table. It's that build's about to start. And then I have the KTM 300. I've got the KTM 525 Supermoto. Is that it?
That sounds about
I
right.
think that's it. I think that's all I have now.
Dirt bikes? Did you put the
The
dirt bikes?
300.
Yeah, he's got the
300.
300.
Yeah.
Yeah, the $1 million machine.
Yeah, it's very muddy in the back of the trailer right now.
Yeah, we actually have it here. It's just not on camera.
Yep.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's in the back of his trailer.
So the reason I was late is because one of the guys got stuck down. So Brian's one of our goofy friend riders, and he's a goofball. I love him. But he has a 300 as well. We were at Saddleback riding, and he had Adam's 450 Husky in the back for whatever reason. Now, apparently this thing sprung for like a 230-pound rider, and like, I don't know what Adam's doing with this bike. I don't know why he had it, but for whatever reason, Holm decided to talk him into taking it out and riding it for the last hour of the day. Well, I had literally an hour and I had to leave, and I'm like, I have to leave in an hour. Like, know this, guys, because it never happens that way, right? And so he goes down there. We're about 5 minutes back to camp, and he like literally sends this thing up this. There's like this big, like maybe 4 or 5 foot step up that you have to jump up out of the creek to get into the trail, and he 360'd it in the air. Like, I mean, I didn't see it, the other 2 guys, but I believe it from what it sounded like hitting the rocks. It was horrible, man. And he's like a football field away from me too. So, but it ended up bending the sprocket and throwing the chain off of it. Ooh. So he's back down there for 35 minutes trying to get that back. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to leave. So, but I have a thing about leaving people, man. I can't.
I know it's tough. Like, you don't want to leave somebody behind.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, it's a little shitty to do. So how old were you the first time you ever got to ride a motorcycle?
I was actually considerably older. My parents are white collar workers that do nothing fun. Probably 17.
Okay, so you're like late bloomer.
Yeah. No. 15 was my first ride on the back of one, and then one of my neighbors had one I'd always go look at. He had a Honda Nighthawk 750. And I'd always go over and look at that bike. I thought it was super cool when I was young.
Well, so your neighbor had that thing when you were young and you were looking at it, but what actually got you into riding? Like, when you first rode that bike, like let's say it was 17, what got you into it?
The impulse buy.
Impulse buy?
An impulse buy on a 1983 GS5 550.
Ooh.
First year for him, I think it was too. This thing wasn't fit for the street either. This is the only thing I could afford at 17. And, of course, you're not old enough to transfer titles in Ohio or anything like that, right? So I rode dirty.
Just riding dirty, 17
dirty.
years old.
I stashed it in...
No gear on.
Nothing, dude. I stashed it in a store and walk.
Yeah, simpler
for my
times,
parents. And then my parents didn't know I rode until I was 25.
Wow, you kept that under wraps for quite a while.
Yeah,
kept that on the DL, huh?
Yep. Good thing I never crashed on the street, because that would have been a different story.
So you started on a street bike instead of starting on dirt?
I come from the street world for sure.
I remember back when when I first really started hanging around Eric, because of course I knew him from the Asphalt Junkies boards, but we really didn't meet until like 2011-ish.
Yeah, probably 10, 11.
Yeah, somewhere around in there. And when I first met him, he had the only dirt bike that was around was a CR250. And it was like a 02, I want to say.
01.
01 CR250.
My friend still has that bike.
And not saying it was like a bad bike or anything, but he just didn't take dirt riding very seriously at the time. Just kind of like, and at that point in time, around
we were road racing.
Like 2000, for me, 2008 to like 2012, maybe 2014, I was heavy into dirt bike riding. So I was like, hey, what's that old CR250 doing back there? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's just my old dirt bike or whatever. I just ride it around I'm like, well, let's go dirt riding, you know? And because that's at the time what I was like super into, and I was just really getting into street riding. So that's how I always remember Eric was like starting off or being mostly street. But I think that's kind of flipped nowadays. All y'all are.
Yeah, my first dirt bike was I was 25.
Yeah.
And it was a like 87 KX 250 with half of the clutch basket missing, and it was bad, man. And I'm gonna tell you what, I used to come home from work every day, change in the garage, and go to the little motocross track I had, because we had the 5 acres in the back, 16 acres across the street, right? And we built like this natural terrain motocross track. Well, this bike is clapped out piece of crap. I knew nothing about dirt bikes at the time, and I used to just go out and ride it as long as I could ride it for. And I learned very quickly it's a great way to get in shape. And I remember going out and I got confident on that bike after a while, right? And that stopped the confidence real quick when it body slammed me backwards on the ground. I said, oh, that can happen with a 2-stroke. So
so we're question next I don't think really applies for Eric, but I think we can kind of modify it a little bit. The question is, did you do the basic rider course?
Nope.
And what I would more like to pivot that into is, I know you did a lot of track riding, a lot of racing. How did that start for you?
I bought. So, have you guys been to Cavalcade? I know you guys have been to Cavalcade, right? Yep. So, Cavalcade, where's the dealer when I first met you, it was your dealer down in Fairfield you always went to?
Honda Fairfield.
Yeah, it was Cycle Specialties.
Oh, no, Specialties?
Yes, that's who it was, Cycle Specialties. So, I saw them in the early 2000s at Cavalcade, and they had one of the brand new R1s sitting there.
Probably back when they were ships.
Yeah, I think that was right through that transition.
Called Ships Yamaha back in the day.
Yep. And they had one there, and I'm looking at it, and I thought it was super cool, and dude talks to me a minute, and that was kind of the end of that. I went down and bought an R1, got rid of the old clapped out bike I had, and I had a Suzuki 600 before that, like a 98 or something. Got rid of that, got this R1, got talked into track days with one of my friends. So my first track day was at Mid-O, and that was probably back in 2003-ish, maybe, 4-ish, something like that. Did a couple of track days, then I went back to drag racing and got rid of bikes. Yeah, I went back. I had a 7-ish second car. I had a pretty fast drag car, and I did that for a couple years, and everybody got old and started having kids and getting married and couldn't hang out at the track anymore, and it was kind of old news to me anymore.
And a lot of money.
So much money. And so I went back and got another bike, and that's kind of after we met, and I started doing track days again, and that was it, man. I was hooked. And then I got around the wrong people, or the right people, however you want to look at it. And that was the end of that. But I couldn't get enough track for like 10 years, man.
And I don't think that we have enough film to capture this. So I'm going to kind of gloss over it. But the question is, what other bikes have you owned in your past?
Oh God, that's like an impossible question.
Yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, we'll just gloss over that.
So many. I mean, I like odd bikes.
What were some of your favorite bikes from your past? I guess some of the
I still
notable
own it.
ones.
My
Yeah.
525.
Yeah, that old girl has been around forever.
Man, I've had that bike longer than any bike I've ever owned, and now I restored it. Have you seen it?
I don't think so. Not in a while.
It turned out insanely awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know, man. I've just had a lot of oddball bikes that just, in one way or another, were unique. But I like bikes that nobody else has.
I'm a big fan of weird bikes too. So like you and I have both owned, like we were like some of the only people I've ever met that's owned Husabergs.
Yeah.
You know, just weird
People
crap
still
like that.
look at me funny when I say it. They're like, a Husa what?
Yeah, they haven't even heard of a Husaberg, and we're like, heck yeah, we're like hardcore into
Yeah.
Husabergs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Buell for some reason, but
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I've always been confused about that.
but this is a great question for you. What's your favorite type of riding? And I know
Man,
that changes, but
it does, man, and it definitely changes as you age. Like when I was younger, I liked the speed. I like the track riding, the racing stuff for sure. Dude, the enduro stuff's got to take the cake, though, for sure. I mean, it's just, there's so much adventure, and it takes you to so many cool places that nobody else is going to see. And a lot of these places you can't even walk to. So it's the enduro and hard enduro stuff I like the best, for sure.
Travis, to kind of build on that, what do you think your favorite type of riding is at the moment?
Well, I mean, right at the moment, I really like the mountains riding, street riding on the street triple, but mostly just because that bike's new and I'm still like getting into that bike, you know, really learning it.
It's still shiny.
Yeah, so I really like that, but I do want to do kind of like what you're saying, some, you know, enduro adventure style riding, you know, going places people haven't been. That's really what
I think people get screwed up with the enduro, and maybe it's just my group of enduro guys, but nobody likes riding with us. Every time I bring somebody new, they're mad, they're mad at me at the end of the day. But I don't know. I mean, the group of guys that I have, they're all business owners. They're all highly motivated people, man, and they like a freaking challenge.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, I like riding to challenge me, so I know where they're coming from. And I like to do very stupid things that no one else would do on a motorcycle. Like over Christmas, I rode my scooter to Georgia and back, a 150cc scooter to Georgia and back. And yes, I own other motorcycles that would have made the trip easier, but I wanted to do it on my scooter. And I want to ride my scooter even further than that. I'd like to ride it across country. And I like that it's too small. And I like that it's going to be a mess and it's going to be hard to do. And it's going to take forever. But I just enjoy the challenge of it because, I don't know, like I have owned the big adventure bikes and big touring bikes. And I've gone cross country on these big adventure bikes and touring bikes. And guess what? It was a great trip. And the bike did the trip, no problem, no questions asked, which is a little boring.
The scooter, man. That's a long ways.
Dude, I'm hardcore about scooting now.
I mean, I'm pretty hardcore rider, man. Like, I mean, Lou and Holm and I are talking about doing the ride up the Alaskan Highway and stuff.
Do Dalton and stuff.
Like in the next 2 to 3 years ish.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. That's kind of a bucket list item on a bike for sure.
150 cc's, man. Like, I don't know.
I would ride that thing to the tip of Alaska.
I'm a hardcore rider. I just don't know if I can do it on that.
I'd do it off-road, on-road, through crossing rivers. It doesn't matter. I love the scoot. You have worked on bikes in your past. So what are some of the common modifications that you do to any motorcycle you own? Like your go-to, as soon as you buy the thing, these are the things I modify.
Depends on what it is. We talking a dirt bike or a street bike?
Either.
Next to gear, beyond gear, because gear's always your first. Probably suspension, brakes. Suspension probably is one of those big things. You know, the thing is, when I was younger, suspension wasn't that important to me, but like we've become such apt riders at this point that I think you ask anybody in our riding group what their number one mod is, it's probably going to be suspension.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Like coming up through the ranks and achieving the level I'm at now as far as skill on a street motorcycle, sport bikes or racetrack stuff. Suspension is that difference maker, and as you get better and better at this game, just like a lot of things in life, the better and better you get at something, you suffer from diminishing returns, and you get to a point where you get so good so fast on a motorcycle. You can spend thousands of dollars to gain a couple tenths of a second in lap time. Mm-hmm. So it's just suffering from diminishing returns there. So as a new rider, you have so much to learn about riding that making modifications to your bike doesn't really matter because the bike is so much more capable than you are.
No.
But at a certain point, you get to that point where now you're becoming more capable than the bike.
I mean, I don't want to take it out of context, like we've all done our fair share of track riding at this point in our lives. And the fact of the matter is I'd like to see anybody that was able to outride my R6 that I had that was a track bike. Like that thing was built to the hilt, the best of everything you could buy on it. And I mean, it was an absolute monster on the track. But at the end of the day, there wasn't nobody in our group that had the skill set to pilot that at full capacity.
No, and you do reach that point. And I would say like a lot of these modern super bikes, whether it's the new Ducati or the new BMW or whatever, out of the box, those things are so incredible that, you do reach that point where if I were to go out and buy an off the shelf Ducati Panigale R V4, all that stuff, it's a $40,000 machine. I probably don't need to modify it other than like crash protection. Obviously, I'm going to throw slicks on it, like normal stuff like that to accommodate track riding. But I'm not going to go hardcore and build in suspension because it kind of already has it. So
now, I do have a couple wants on every bike. And that's exhaust, usually some sort of intake, and some good tires. Those would probably be my three. I don't have to have it.
Well,
but it kind of makes it my bike.
I've never considered tires a mod. I always consider them a consumable. So
they're a safety thing for me.
But there is that whole, like, you buy a bike off the showroom and it just comes with like GPR 300s or something. And you're like, oh, I'm getting those off there. I'm not riding on them. Yeah, I'm getting those off there.
Nope. It takes one time to grease them up down in the mountains, and that's the end of that.
Yep.
Travis got a taste. What's your tire now?
The Pirelli Super Corsa V4s.
Yep, that's what I run, the Corsa 4s.
I won't buy anything else.
The Diablo Corsa 4s is what I run.
He runs the
Super Corsa SP V4.
And so he got a taste of those tires, and I told him, I was like, dude,
life changing.
Dude, they're gonna ruin you. Like, and the bad thing is they're gonna drain your bank account.
Yeah, they're very expensive. So I just had to call Monger and get new tires for the Adventure and the Duke, and then here I am doing this and picking up a set of wheels because I decided to taco it. On a pothole last year. So, I'm out an insane amount of money here, and I haven't even started the season yet. So I'm kind of, the only good saving grace to it is now I have two big bikes. And the big thing with the Adventure bike, getting that was because I wanted to start doing 2-up with my wife, and my kid wants to do 2-up. And we did a short one in the fall, like late fall this year. She's hooked. She'll be on every ride we'll be on, man, for sure. So, but I can split the mileage between all the bikes now, and I likely will because I like the bikes. So it's always funny when you get a garage full of bikes because half the time you always pick two bikes. I had a couple dirt bikes at one time. I picked my 6 days bike every time, man. I had that nice ass Hoosberg 300, and I had some other, the 450. I picked my 300 every time. I just liked it.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time about how you always want to like spread out the bikes you own for different purposes. You don't want to own two bikes of the same purpose because you're going to end up picking one bike 90% of the time. So it's like good to have a wide spread across everything. You have an adventure bike for your all-purpose. You have your sport bike that is just dedicated to going fast and hard, whether it be track or on the street. And then, if you do dirt, then you have dirt bikes.
Yeah.
But you spread everything around, but you make sure that each thing has its own purpose.
I always joke with my wife. I always tell her I have a bike for every occasion. So, well, I did. I sold the trials bike. And, of course, I regret that because now I want another trials bike. But the thing was, I had a 98 Montesa 315 Coda.
It was a little antiquated for sure.
It was getting old. The parts were very hard to find for it. And it was a little bit heavy for a modern trials bike. So I'll grab another one day.
That's how I am with supermotos. We were just talking about how my supermoto only has 6.5 hours on it. But I don't care. Last time I sold my supermoto, I instantly regretted it.
Yeah.
I was like, why did I do that? I
never sell bikes. You shouldn't sell bikes.
I enjoy riding that bike so much, even though I do it not very often. It makes it worth keeping around.
And it's nice to look at when you're out here.
Yeah, it is a sharp bike. It's a cool bike too.
Yeah.
So we spoke a little bit. You mentioned you have a wife and a daughter. Is your family supportive of you riding? Not only from them, but like you mentioned, you didn't tell your parents until you're 25. So how supportive is everybody of you riding?
I mean, obviously my parents are not big fans of it. My parents are very traditional white collar people. I mean, it is what it is. My family is more supportive of my riding than I think they are, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is when I do go riding and when I go do motorcycle things and this and that, I feel guilty every time I do it. And I shouldn't. And I know I shouldn't. And she tells me I shouldn't. But I do because they're not into that sport. Your wife's heavy into it, right? So
she has more bikes than I do.
Yeah. So
almost double.
Yeah. Is your girl into your wife?
She rides, yeah.
Yeah. So, my family wants nothing to do with them other than to ride on the back of the adventure bike. And they're bougie about it too. They want all the comforts and all that stuff. They're not.
Better get the heated seat on there.
It's got it. It's but the thing is like I'm the dude that's going to go ride the Transcontinental Divide in the frickin' snow and the rain and everything else and not be moved by it. And if it ain't 75, 80 degrees and sunny, my wife ain't getting on that bike.
So. You just mentioned taking a trip to Alaska, like you're planning. What's your favorite trip that you have taken on a bike? Is there any certain trip that sticks out in your mind?
I mean, they're actually repetitive trips. The mountain trip's one that we all do.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is the riding's great. And I spent most of my riding life down there, right? So we're all familiar. We've all spent tons and tons of time down there riding. It's my friends that come, man. And it's all the good food that we like. It's, we've changed, we've aged, right? So, but that trip and then my Redbird trip, as far as epic bucket list trips, I haven't done too terribly many of them. They might have maybe felt pretty epic when I started, like West Virginia rides and down into the Smoky Mountains and stuff like that. But we do them a lot, really. I mean, we spend a lot of time down there riding.
To give a little context, all three of us go on the trip to the Smoky Mountains, and we always refer to it as the Cheese Man trip because this guy Cheese Man started it back in the 80s. So what about that trip in particular? Why does that stick out in your mind?
Well, I mean, we get an unreal amount of riding. I mean, on a good day, we'll do 300 miles, 250 miles, and we do that for 3 to 4 days. Sometimes we stay longer. Ain't a lot of people out there going to throw down that kind of mileage in a week.
And what I've always enjoyed about that trip in particular is, a lot of other riding that I do with just other motorcyclists, whether it's with friends, family, or just some new people that I just met or whatever. A lot of times I do a lot of leading. Like a lot of folks lean on me to lead the ride, which I have no problem with. That's cool. But usually when I'm in that situation, I'm riding for the other people. So I limit my pace to what I measure them to be able to handle. And so, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that. But the Cheeseman trip is like a rare time when I get to just go, and I can go as hard as I want to go, and I don't have to worry about leaving people behind and people falling off and getting lost. I don't have to worry about watching anybody, because everybody that comes on the trip is on the level. Like, everybody is an accomplished rider, capable of some serious speed, and we are all level-headed. We all make good decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, mishaps can happen.
Dude, there's such an insane amount of skill set in that group of guys. I mean, as far as riding goes, it's crazy.
I love that. In Travis last year, you saw how much Travis had stepped up, and that bike was like the key to unlocking.
But what did that for you?
Experience.
I know what did it. Track days.
Well, yeah, it helped a lot, definitely.
I mean, that is, if you want to get good on the street, dude, track days is where it's at.
That's like the accelerated program right there, is going on and doing track days.
That's 3 years in a weekend.
Yep.
It's a place you can go, like, scientifically, to eliminate all variables and just concentrate on the one thing you're trying to do.
Yep.
You don't have to try to push harder while also looking out for ducks crossing the road.
Right.
Like, you can just go,
Unless you're at Summit.
Yeah, I mean,
We get alligators at Jennings.
At Jennings, it's alligators.
Summit's got a little bit of wildlife. It just, surprise.
Did you hear what happened to Natasha?
No.
She hit a deer on the racetrack.
When?
Just
Jennings?
over the last season.
Oh,
I don't remember
goodness.
what track it was. I think it was CMP, actually. I think it was a track that I went to
wouldn't
for Yamaha
surprise
Champ
me.
School. Yeah, and she was like on the backside where it's pretty freaking quick through there. Like, you come across the kink and you get up to like 140. And if you're on the right bike and you're really turning some time.
I mean, she's not slouched on the bike.
No, she's not. And deer popped out of the woods and just cut across the track. She smacked right into it.
She okay?
Kinda. Like, she got tore up. The bike got tore up. Crazy. I'm just out of all the things you're always trying to tell people, go to the track. It's the safe place to go.
And here comes a deer.
Here comes a dang deer.
deer.
Like, come
Well,
on.
it's no, you come and visit a couple years back. God, that's been 10 years ago, probably. But
Yeah, when I hit the deer with my truck.
Don't watch for the deer coming out. We live out in the country, right? So watch the deer. It comes in madder than a hornet, man. And he's like, I hit a deer. I was like, I had to pull his bumper out with my tractor.
Yeah, because it was rubbing my tire and I couldn't drive. Oh, it was.
I felt so bad about
I came
that.
back out and I was like, "Can you get a chain in your tractor and pull my front end off my wheel?"
As we've been there drinking all night. Great.
So this next question is kind of a fun one to think about. Is if money wasn't a concern, that wasn't a. We're not even considering price tags here. What bikes would you have in your garage? Bike or bikes?
Oh, it'd be bikes. There's no one singular. What kind of what?
Like, is there anything on your radar?
I think I'd like to have a 1390, man. Just, I don't know. I'm more curious about that bike right now. I don't think it's that different, though. I don't think it's going to be that different.
Let me tell you, it's not. And then what I don't like about that bike, from 22 on, they went to electronic suspension.
You're just an electronic suspension hater. He's
I
been
am.
talking
I
bad
love it
about
on my
it
adventure.
all
Well,
evening.
You love it until it's on your proper sport bike and you go to modify the suspension and you're like, well, now I can't.
I'm agree with you only because the background, the technical background I have, I understand that stuff. So I like quicking them. I like fixing and messing around with the quickers. Now, I'm not a button clicker and going to the track and then blaming everything on my bike kind of deal, but I like tuning my bike. I can agree with that. But yeah, probably a couple of the flagship KTMs. Definitely gonna get into some of those V4 Ducatis for sure.
Those things are just incredible.
Unbelievable. I will tell you, I talked about maybe going back to the track and maybe doing a few track days if I could get my brain and my body back up to pace.
Do you see what I got right there?
Yep. I think I wanted an Ape V4, RSV4, but they have so many starting problems and stuff with them, man.
So I was talking with a guy that tunes on apes and stuff, and those Ape V4s, they had a reputation there for a while for grenading, and he told me, like, these are more reliable than their reputation precedes them. You know, the issue is nobody does proper warm up on them.
Yeah.
Because proper warm up on an Aprilia V4 is 20 minutes. It's no joke. They originally designed the engine way back in 2007, 2008 and then they were going to use it during that time when MotoGP went to the 800 cc's. So they had developed this engine as a 1000, and then MotoGP brought out the 800 cc rule back then. And Aprilia was like, they threw their hands in the air like, well, crap. We just developed this 1000, and basically we got to scrap that thing now because now we got to develop an 800.
Yeah.
Because the architecture's got to be different for the 800 for it to make sense. So instead of scrapping the whole project, they just threw it in a street bike and sold it. The problem with a MotoGP engine is that they're wound super tight, and they got to be fully warmed up to operate properly.
That's all of these machines. This thing here, any of the V4 ducks, like, yeah, sure, you can jump on them and run them, but these are factory-bred race machines, man, and they need to be treated like that.
High state of tune. And so what he said you have to do is you have to do a 20-minute warm-up procedure, get it up to full temperature, then you have to shut down and do a heat soak for 10 minutes, and then you fire it back up, warm it back up to temperature, and go.
It's a 220 horse V4. It's worth it.
Yep, and that's what I said. So as long as you're treating it like it should be treated, they're reliable. They're fine. And with a guy like you owning it, I don't think there's going to be any issues. Like
probably not.
You know,
even if there was,
you know your way around a wrench.
Yeah.
So, do you have any like goals that you'd like to do next in riding? Like anywhere you'd like it to take you?
Yeah, we want to do a couple of those big trips. I think we want to do some bigger touring trips, 3,000 plus mile trips. I want to get a little better and hardened her up, let myself fall apart a little bit. I got pretty good at it there for a while, and life just happened. You know.
I tell you what, I got a challenge for you this season. You got your 525 back together. I got my SMR over there. Our challenge will be sub 40 seconds at G&J.
I could probably click that off the first time out.
Oh, let's see it then.
I don't know the first time out, but you give me the day there, I might be able to get that out pretty good.
So
here's the thing about that bike, though, man. That's got the SXS factory HMC dual exhaust I put on it. It's got an STM slipper. It's got a lot of factory one-off parts on it from back in the early 2000s when they raced them, which was kind of my goal to put it back together the way it was. I'm scared to death to throw that thing on the ground, man. And the thing is with Supermoto, I've never been scared to do that. It's never bothered me to do it, right? I don't care if I throw the bike on the ground, which is probably why I was as quick as I was. But I don't know. We'll see.
And
so I'd be more apt to throw this thing on the ground all day.
Well, I can get replacement parts for that.
That's why.
But I still don't want to throw it on the ground because it's still pretty.
Well, no, who does? I mean, and you taint your beautiful bike.
I know, right?
It's never perfect.
It's never the same after that.
I know it's going to happen. It'll happen. And once I get that over with, then I'll be real freaking fast.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm down to throw down some laps at G&J this year.
I went since I picked that bike. I know. And since I picked that bike up, the first time I went back to G&J, I was running like 44s. Like it was like pretty abysmal. But to be fair, I was there by myself, so I wasn't really, trying to go too.
You shouldn't push on yourself.
So once I got up there and I had some other people with me, I got it down into the 41s, and I feel like, and I did some suspension adjustment and dialed it in a little bit better because I was riding it as it come off the showroom, just because I was like, whatever, let's just ride it off the showroom before I do any adjustments. That way I can figure out what adjustments I want to make. So I just did a baseline. So now that I got it dialed in pretty dang good, I feel like I could put it into the sub 40s, run 39s.
I mean, I think you could. It's funny when we were down there all the time. Monger, Lou, Bill Meister, a whole bunch of us all the time. You at the end there, we were Meister, Lou, Monger, and I we were clicking off in groups. We were riding this like 2 and 3 wide in these turns, which is just insane to think about, really. Which is probably why we had the crashes we had. But
Super Lou.
yeah, I mean, we got down into the 37s.
Yeah,
that's ripping through that track too, man.
Dustin May was always the fastest dude I ever knew around G&J, and he'd click 37s like pretty consistently. Yeah. He'd run 37s or low 38s like clockwork.
Nah, he was always super consistent. I wish we've rode together a couple times, but kind of indirectly.
That dude is so aggressive.
We've always crossed paths, and I would have loved to have been able, back in both of our heydays, to have been able to throw down with each other, because we would have had a hell of a good time.
He's the nicest guy. He's a great dude.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy.
But when you get him on the track, he's the most aggressive person ever, dude. He's so like it's kind of scary to ride with him, because dude, he does not care about personal space at all.
Didn't your wife stop riding on the track because I was too aggressive with one day?
No.
Somebody said that to me. Now, not with her, but
so Jessica, whenever you're out on the track, she knows how you are. And she's fully prepared for you to come around. I just
get like this tunnel vision, man. I don't really notice anybody around me.
And she's totally cool with it.
I'm trying to be an asshole.
She knows how to handle herself on track. So if you come around her, it's not going to bother her.
Yeah. No, I always try to be respectful going by people. I know we ain't out there, racing when we're having track days, but I want to see where I can push myself.
Exactly.
And I like going for the endurance runs.
I know you do. You click laps like I'm so out of shape on a supermoto. I click 4 laps and I'm like, I gotta go in. But you'll sit out there and click like 43 laps and be like, come in, be like, hey, you want to come back out? Just immediately, like you don't even shut the engine off. You're like, let's go.
I don't know if I can do that anymore, but I definitely used to run that bike out of gas at the track.
Yeah, I know. Like the only reason you come in is because you're out of fuel, and you're like, all right, time to fuel back up. These are from these questions are from a episode we did, and they're kind of fun things to think about. So, what bike out there currently, it's an existing bike, is out there but shouldn't exist? Whether it's from, you want to think about it from sales perspective, or if you just think it's a dumb bike, is there a bike out there that exists that you're like, why do they make that?
Moto Guzzi's.
just the whole thing.
Listen, man, they're cool, unique bikes, but dude, they're just they've not changed in 80 years, man.
Well, and I'm not knocking. I wouldn't knock them for not changing, but I knock them because they're bad motorcycles. They're
just such an odd motorcycle, man.
I was stoked to ride one for the first time. I didn't get to ride one until I started working at the dealer. We got a V7 Stone in. It's a cool little cafe-looking thing, and I was like, oh, that thing's cool. I want to ride that. So I asked, and I was like, can I take that thing home for the night? I want to go to bike night, and I want to ride this thing. And they were like, yeah, that's cool. So I left out of the dealership. I got out onto the main road in front of the dealership, and I was like, fuck, I made a bad choice. It was like the worst ergonomics, and I had to ride it an hour home. And I was like, I called my boss up when I got home, and I was like, yeah, you were right. This is a terrible motorcycle.
The purists are going to murder you.
I don't care.
I don't either. But
they're just bad motorcycles.
They're just a weird motorcycle.
I wanted to like them, but it was not a good motorcycle. So the inverse of that is there a bike out there that you think should exist but doesn't? Like, is there a void that you're like, man, I wish they made a product, that would work in this situation?
I think they need to make, like the Aprilia did, I think they need to start making small displacement V-twins for supermotos.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about those.
Like the 550 SVX.
Yeah, that would be neat.
By the way, if you ever find one of those, it's relatively cheap. I don't give a shit if it has a sealer in the engine or not. I'll fix it.
Dude,
I'd like to have one.
I've been seeing them go up for sale.
Dude, they're so expensive still.
No, I've been seeing them go up for $4,500.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that are for sale around that, but they're shit shows of bikes, man.
Well, the ones I saw were like decent, and one of them went on Iconic. I don't know if you've seen Iconic motorbike auctions. I sold a Buell on there actually. One of them went on Iconic, and I think it went for like $5,500.
The parts are starting to get hard to find
But
for them.
yes, they're very hard to find parts for. That's 100%.
I think Bill's still got his with the engine in pieces still.
He does. I bump into Bill from time to time working down in Kentucky, and we send a lot of people his way, and he sends a lot of people our way. And one night, I was doing another podcast with these. They're Indian motorcycle guys, good group of guys, and the one guy who's running the podcast, he's an IT guy by trade, so he's like really proficient at making the technical work.
Yeah, right.
So it looks fantastic. He does a bunch of interviews, and he did one with Bill, and I was like, well, I know Bill, so I've been sitting in on their podcast from time to time. I'll help them host, and we'll do it at the dealership. We'll just do it after hours. So we had Bill come, and then me and Bill got off on talking about supermotos, and he was telling me about it. You know, he's like, well, I still got that old Aprilia. And I was like, well, why aren't you getting it back together, dude? We'll freaking turn some laps. But I'm not holding my breath.
So we went on a camping trip. It was Mark Nolman, Ramel, Bill Meister, me. I feel like there were other people, but maybe not. It was a really cool little camping, hiking trip that we took at Red River Gorge. And that's the first time I've seen Bill in 7 or 8 years, probably, man. I'm just not down here that much. And it's like, it's just crazy, dude. Like, I look at everybody that I haven't seen in a while, like at Willow, when everybody showed up, and I'm like, good Lord, we're getting old, man. Like, everybody's just changed. There's a couple people in Asphalt Junkies, if you came up to me, I wouldn't know who they were because they've changed so much.
Wow.
It's crazy.
You know, a lot more gray in the beard.
Gray, everybody's losing their hair. I mean,
gaining weight and you know, all that good stuff. Like,
look at all this shit. Look at that. Oh, so bad.
We're all getting old, man.
I know.
I've been trying to hoping to come across some youthful folks. Nick is one of them. Nick is just 30, and that's now the youthful folks is when you're 30 years old. But I've been hoping for some younger blood to come in that we can kind of bring up. That way we have people to ride with.
I'm at the age now where my employees hurt my feelings sometimes because they're they remind me how old I am.
Dude, our technicians in the back, the oldest one is 24. I got a 19, or maybe he just turned 20. Another one that's 21, and then the one that's 24. That's as old as they are. Like the 21-year-old, for the longest time, he thought I was younger. I look young for my age. And then he figured out that I'm old enough to be his dad. And he was like, oh, I didn't think you were that old.
My front counter girl, Savannah, she was 7 when I started my company. And she reminded me of that last Thursday. I was like, appreciate that. Thank you.
And you're I being in sales, I have to take down people's information, so I get to see their birth date.
Yeah.
And the first time I sold a bike to a guy that was born in 2002, I was like, dude, I done graduated high school. What? Oh, yeah. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And you're buying a bike?
Yeah.
So here's the last question on our list. You've had a long motorcycle career journey through all of this. If you could start over, hindsight's 2020, would you do anything different in regards to how you've come up through motorcycling?
I'd get into road racing or track riding groups faster.
Yeah.
I just stumbled across it. I didn't even know. And that's part of the problem with the road race stuff and with track days and why the stuff is on a continual decline year after year. It's why Cycle Options closed up. I know Kenny asked me if I wanted to buy the rights to the track day organization. I know he'd talked to a couple other people about it. And the thing is, it just got too risky then. And
that whole thing, like track day organizations, a lot of folks don't understand how that works as a business. They're not in it. they can't be in it to make money. Not a single one of them makes money. Like, they just bring in enough revenue to cover the costs, and they do it out of passion.
There's a handful of tractor orgs that have figured it out and do pretty decent financially wise, but
It's getting harder and harder with
it is and
track costs and insurance costs. It's just getting so hard.
At the end of the day, I think it's more for a fun thing. It's kind of like why Kenny did Cycle Options. You know, it was a thing that him and his buddies just rented out a track, and it just became a track day organization.
I was actually looking into that, and I didn't realize how cheap Little Tally is to rent. Dude, it's like $1,000 a day during the week.
Nope.
I'm like,
we could get 5 or 6 guys together. And
5 or 6 guys, and we got a track.
Nothing.
We could rent it for 3 days during the week.
Yep.
All we got to do is drive to Alabama.
Okay.
I'm like, let's do
it. I'm down for sure. Yeah.
So that's all the list of questions I have here. Travis, you got anything?
No, not really. Not that I'm thinking of at the top of my head.
Eric, you got any questions here for us?
No. I'm just a talker.
I know. It's okay. I am too.
I can't help it. What's a perfect gig for you? Run a podcast, right?
That's why sales is so good for me.
Yeah.
I get paid to talk. I was joking around with Jessica. I was like, we're going to have Schmidt on the podcast. And she's like, oh, Lord. And I was like, do you think we're going to break the record for the longest podcast ever?
Hey, I like to talk about what I like to talk about, man.
Yeah, man. And, now we're going to break records here. We're probably going to hit like 14 views on this video.
Nice. Nice.
And 3 of them are going to be me. So
listen, you got to start somewhere, man.
But you know what? I use this as an opportunity to talk with my buddies.
Yeah.
Just to hang out and talk with my buddies.
Well, I mean, as we age, we need more and more excuses for that. I mean, I come up with all kinds of crazy excuses just to drive down to Cincy and see home, and he usually will call Monger and everybody else, and we'll all meet at somebody's house just to hang out anymore. But
life, just gets more and more complicated, and it gets harder and harder to stay in touch outside of your own like little family, and that because that's the most important thing. And so it gets harder and harder to find the time to go visit these people that have made a big impact on your life. And so you got to kind of start doing things to find excuses to make it happen, because I think it's still valuable to have those people in your life, even though you don't get to see them on a daily or weekly basis.
for sure.
So, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming down and hanging out and bullshitting with us. And even before we started the podcast, bullshitting with us. So appreciate you coming in, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me out, guys.
Play me a Nick sound effect. Another one.